Hello there.
Oh, well, hello. Long time no see.
It has been so long. It's so good to see your beautiful face on my screen.
Likewise.
Welcome, weirdos, to another Mind, Body, Spirits with Amy Goldenberg, our resident medium.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
What's the weather like in Denver?
It's hot as shit.
Dude, it's so hot. It's so hot here. I can't
And I
handle
live
it.
in like a brick oven. Like, I live in a brick building on the corner of the sun. And like, it took me 5 weeks to get a new air conditioning.
No.
It was horrible. Yeah. But, it finally happened. So now I can like not feel insane all the time.
You were like a wilting flower in there.
It was insane. I felt insane. So, heat, man, it'll do crazy things to your
It
mind.
really will. It'll boil your brain into nothing.
Yes.
This is about the time of year where it's like, okay, well, I know I need to touch grass. However, it's going to be a very brief touch. I'm getting back inside. I'm not built for this.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I'm like, just dig a big hole down into like a cellar that's really cold, and then I'll just stay in there until like the end of September.
Yeah, we all need to get like backyard deep holes that we can just go like crawl into where it's a little bit damp and a little bit cool and shaded. And then we can continue to be close to Mother Earth and get her good vibes and energy. But we don't roast in the sun. I can't handle it.
Yeah, maybe that's the future of humanity. We'll have to be underground dwellers.
We were at one point. There are plenty of underground civilizations that we've found. What happened? Why'd we go down
Yeah, and
there?
they're
Why'd we come
probably
back
still
up?
down there, and they're like, don't come here. Don't come here.
Don't come here. You're not invited. There's a reason that we left you up there.
We'll gentrify it down there. It'll just end up being a
Starbucks.
whole mess. Yeah, exactly. Too many, multiple Starbucks. And yeah, no.
A Starbucks in every hole.
uh,
But welcome. What are we talking about today?
Today, I thought that we could talk about grief, the topic of grief, because there are so many things for us to grieve in our personal lives and our collective life.
Yeah.
There's just been so much loss, not just recently, especially for like millennials. It's like one thing after the other,
Mm-hmm.
with all of the different like natural disasters, violence, and like man-made violence, all these things that we have in our face all the time. And then we have our own personal losses that we experience, and we don't really have a very, in my opinion, we don't have a lot of great ways of processing grief that we like talk about in our society.
I agree with that totally.
Yeah. So what is your relationship like with grief? Is it something that you're able to connect with yourself on, or is it something you kind of like push away and it's hard for you to get there sometimes, or what's your experience with that?
I usually envelop myself fully in grief when I'm grieving to the point where it may even be detrimental to me, but not in the long run. I do feel like in the long run, I have a pretty healthy relationship with it. I think that I have a harder time grieving the loss of less tangible things than I do the loss of like individuals and people. I maybe that has to do with like my spiritual beliefs and the fact that I just don't believe that they're gone and I can always feel them. And I'm positive that wherever we go next just is incomparable to this, and that they have no pain and they have no suffering and they are perfect. That to me is like, oh, nice. That's a nice thing. But it's like intangible things. Like I collectively we did lose 2 years of our lives to a pandemic. And like it's that sort of grief that like I don't actually address because it does seem so like so much of a like a millennial thing to be like we have to grieve the time we lost. But we do have to grieve the time we lost. We all got so
Yeah,
much older and we all lost so much experience,
we lost so much. We lost so much, period. Like, we lost our socializing,
safety.
feeling of safety. Yeah, so many things. I totally agree with that. And I feel like grief also extends itself to like dreams that we've never actualized in our lives, that we won't, like when you decide that you're not going to have children, grieving that life that you could have had. Not that there's any, like, you don't have to grieve it if you don't feel that way, obviously,
Right.
but also there might be a part of you that's like, I always thought I was going to do this and I never did. And it's like, it's okay to like also mark those places in life and grieve those things. It doesn't have to just be related to like death.
Totally. Yeah.
I would agree that that's a significant thing that I feel like our culture loves to like gaslight us in those ways where it's like, well, get over it.
Yeah, just like move on.
And it's like, and then everybody has like body like diseases. And then it's
Yeah,
like, because that shit doesn't, it needs to be moved out of the body. All of these type of energies need to be moved out of the body. And grief is a big one that I just think we don't have a lot of help with, and we don't have a lot of traditions that are helpful. Even our death traditions in the Western world, generally speaking, are like, you put the person who's dying in the back room and you don't talk about it, and you don't talk about them dying, you don't talk about it in front of them, and then they die, and then we like put them in a box and we don't look at them, we just keep it and we don't talk about it and we just move on.
And we put them underground and we keep them in a cemetery miles outside of town.
Yeah, and we just don't talk about it. And
Yeah.
like, so I have a few different practices and also information that I think is helpful just in regards to how do we process grief in gentle ways that are like supportive, because I also think a lot of people can be afraid of going there, because it's like, oh, I have so much of this like grief and pain in me that if I try to go there, I'm going to go into like a depression, and I'm going to be
Hmm.
and I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be able to get out of it. And there's like a point when we're moving that kind of energy where you do need to listen to your body and not go past when your nervous system starts to feel like you're getting hysterical, like breathing
Hmm.
and slowing down, but still being able to let yourself go there is, I like you had said, where you have this good relationship with grief where you're like, sometimes I grieve like overly, but in the long run it's beneficial. It's like, well, you're probably not overly grieving, then you're probably just right grieving, because you're moving all that out of
Yeah.
you. So like arguably not processing your grief would lead to a depression more likely than processing your grief, because then you can move it out of you.
Yeah, I think that's true.
First we'll talk about our mind,
Hmm.
and how we can help with the grief that swims around our mind. Somebody told me once about a loss that they experienced, that the pain that we feel when we're grieving a loss doesn't ever really get less. It just gets like less often. And that's
Hmm.
okay. So it's like they described the grief in a box as this giant ball. And every time it hits the side, it's so painful. And this waves of grieving and pain and sadness come about. And then over time, the ball gets smaller. So it hits the sides less frequently. But when it does, it's still very deep pain. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's not a bad thing. We just need to learn that it's an okay thing to have, that it's
Yeah.
okay to feel that type of discomfort, and that maybe it's not as like negative of a discomfort as because we're grieving because of something beautiful that we lost.
Yeah. You don't grieve over things you didn't love,
Yeah.
or people or pets, or, the fact that you love them. I always think of the movie. Did you ever see the movie Arrival?
No.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but essentially,
Spoil away. I don't believe in spoilers.
this idea that, like, if you were to know, I'll take my cat Gabby, for example, because that's my ball has gotten small, but it still hits the sides all the time. Like, it's still, when I see a picture of her or something, the ball hits the side, I hurt. But the thing is like, if I could go back in time, would I decide not to adopt her? Because I knew that it was going to hurt so bad 13 years later when she passed away. No, I would adopt her every single time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's because so where our relationship with grief doesn't have to be it's too painful, let's sweep it under the rug. It's like it's part of the cycle of being a human being, of being, and which I'll talk about in the spirits section. But in the mind section, I want to talk about flower essences, which are a type of like plant medicine. They're very interesting. So the way you make a flower essence is you take a flower, you put it in spring water, in a crystal bowl. You put it outside for a period of time in the sun. Then you take that water and you mix it with equal parts brandy. And then you
Oh,
take a few drops of that and you put it in a bottle with spring water. And then you take that bottle and you take a couple of those drops and put them in spring water, and that's a dosage bottle. And then you take 4 drops a day, 4 times a day. That's like the traditional way of making them and how to take them. So it's a very, very small dosage of medicine.
yeah, the concentration is really small.
It's because it's energetic medicine. So it treats your emotional body.
Mm.
And the way that we measure things at this point in time with science, it's like it sounds crazy. Like it sounds like, how the fuck does that work? Like physiologically, it doesn't make sense. But I think it's just because we can't measure that stuff yet.
Yeah,
Because as a skeptical person, I started working with flower essences, and it was immediately the whatever they were indicated for. Like, I'm feeling anxious, whatever, I take it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I actually feel like kind of okay.
wow.
That's weird. I feel like this shouldn't work, but it does. And so there are all these different flower essences that are indicated for different things. Like, so there's so many. There's like every flower has, you can make an essence out of it. They also have mushroom essences. They have like tree essences. They have a lot. But the traditional ones are the Bach remedies. And I say traditional because he's he's like the first like British white guy who talked about this in
Right.
mainstream Western society. So did he invent them? No, he didn't. Did he?
Popularize.
Yeah, yes, he did.
Yeah.
So he has his like 12 traditional remedies, which I think they actually have more of them now. They sell them at Whole Foods. They sell them at
Dang.
natural grocers, and they look like this. It's a little bottle.
I have seen those before, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This bottle, I don't know how much they cost, because I get mine from Uncle Jeff for free. He gives them to me.
You get them on the black on the Jeff market.
Yeah, Uncle Jeff Bezos, that five finger discount from Whole Foods. Just
Ooh,
kidding.
just kidding. We wouldn't never.
It was a gift. It's called a gratis. Okay. So this bottle is, you take a few of these drops and put them in another bottle with water, and that would be a dosage bottle. So this
Okay.
potentially would last you a significant amount of time.
So you can buy flower essence pre-essenced. Nice.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they all have indications. You can read all about them. And like, if you're called to a certain flower, I would suggest looking up the what the essence does, because it might be something that you need for your emotional body. So the flower essence that I'm going to talk about today is called Star of Bethlehem.
Mm.
And I'll read the little description in the book here. For those in great distress, under conditions which for a time produce great unhappiness, the shock of serious news, the loss of someone dear, the fright following an accident, and such like. For those who for a long time refuse to be consoled, this remedy brings comfort. So it helps you to access these kind of dormant, push down emotions and process them. And in my experience, flower essences, they just work. I have clients that don't understand what they are, but take them because I prescribe them essentially. And like, it'll be like, I didn't realize that I felt this way about this thing, but now all of a sudden they have awareness around some emotional stuff that they didn't before. And they're like, is that like, do you think that's from the flower essence? And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. It's magic. It's literally magic. I don't know how it works, but it freaking works.
It's earth magic. She gave us everything we could possibly need
Yes.
here on earth, growing in the ground.
Yes. And so there are so many different flower essences. And I think they're a great thing for people who have a hard time accessing their emotions,
Mm.
because they sort of bring bring all that stuff up from the subconscious in a way that you can kind of start interacting with it. Um, so that's what I have for the mind, because I feel like sometimes it's overwhelming. Grief is overwhelming. We don't know how to process it. We don't have a lot of healthy practices in that regard anyway. So utilizing something like a flower essence could be really helpful in just trying to calm that down a little bit so you can interact with it in a way that is useful, and not just fully
Yeah,
overwhelming.
definitely. Especially since I know our first reaction to extreme pain is to try and not feel the pain
Yeah,
because it hurts too bad.
especially for people who either grew up in a household that made them do this, or
Mhm.
most people that were socialized as male or taught to disconnect from their emotions at a really young age, which that's changing now, which I think is really awesome. But anybody who's taught to not have feelings,
Yeah.
they still have feelings. They just
Yeah,
are. It's like harder to grapple with them. So
definitely.
flower essences can be really helpful for people who avoid their feelings.
Amazing.
So you can still avoid your feelings. They'll start coming up a little bit more, and then you can't avoid them anymore.
Or in ways that you don't want them to come up.
Yeah, and then you have to deal with them. So the next thing is for the body. I'm going to talk about an herb called Elecampane that I love.
Oh,
The body holds grief in the lungs. That's what all different, teaching traditions, modalities, healing say. So breathing, breath work can be a great way to move that stuff. But also doing anything that can help to tone your lungs or treat your lungs. Elecampane, you utilize the root of the plant. I think it's a great thing to use in a tincture. You can take it as a tea, but it's quite aromatic and kind of perfumey. So it might be better for people as a tincture.
might not like it.
And my experience with Elecampane is I was taking it for months, probably 6 months to a year prior to getting COVID for the first time. And I
Oh,
didn't have any respiratory symptoms at all, period. Mine were all body symptoms, but the respiratory stuff was totally, I was like, my lungs were like, fucking bring it on, bro.
bring it on. Bring on COVID.
Yeah, my lungs are from Orange County, California.
My lungs were born in fire. Okay.
Yeah, they're ready. So it's something that you can take every day and it helps to just keep your lungs in a healthy condition.
I love that.
And you can take, if you don't like to intake alcohol, you can do tinctures that are non-alcoholic. They have those at any places that sell herbs and tinctures specifically. But Elecampane is a great one. And that's to like literally treat your lungs where we trap our grief.
I love Ella Campaign because it sounds like the next new young star. It's like Sabrina Carpenter and Ella Campaign starring in.
Elecampane. Yeah, that's true. That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, but it's great. It's like it does all sorts of things. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good for your digestive tract. As most herbs are, you don't take it if you're pregnant
Yeah.
because it might make you start your period, which
Well,
you don't want to have that when you're pregnant, right?
yeah, no.
At least that's what I think. I don't know.
Don't know. Never been there myself.
Yeah, so it's a generally a great thing. It's also an expectorant, which means it can help you like cough up shit out of your lungs.
Oh, okay.
So it's great in all these different ways to treat the lungs.
Love it.
And then my last section is spirits.
Mm.
So for this section, I wanted to talk about an experience that I had that helped me to understand why grieving is so important for ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for the planet and for the collective. So years ago, when I was in herb school, we were on previously burned land that had gone through a horrible fire a couple years
Mm.
prior. And the herb school had brought students to it like right after the fires happened and then more, a year after that. So when we got there, there's all of this medicine growing everywhere, really abundantly. And we were asked to just kind of like hang out, sit, and take in the information, just kind of be meditative. And then we're in a circle. And when people stand in a circle and start singing, I go into like shaman mode, basically, against my will, I will say.
Yeah, involuntarily.
Yeah, I go like in between, basically, is what happens. And that started happening. And so I just like collapsed to the ground and I started getting all this information from the earth, which is we are a holy witness for the earth as human beings. That's one of our big jobs here is to grieve. Like we can move energy with our emotions through our bodies in a way that it's unique to human beings. Not saying that other creatures don't grieve, because they do, but humans have a particular magic to them where we can wield and move this energy and help the earth compost this energy and make it into something new. So our grief, it's not just ours, it belongs to everything. And if we don't move it through our body, we're doing a disservice to the planet, because that's one of our beautiful roles that we are here to do, is to be with the earth and to be a holy witness to these things that happen, like floods and fires and earthquakes and disruptive things that cause death. And we go into the woods and we sit with the planet and we say, oh, thank you so much for healing us. And this like just makes me cry. The earth says back to us, thank you for healing me. And it's not just about us, we're part of a bigger thing. And so that is something that our grief actually plays a big role in the movement of energy and the shifts in the collective and the collective healing. Like you can grieve on behalf of others, on behalf of the earth, on behalf of yourself, and be doing that and giving it away to the planet, it does get composted and it does make something new. So if you're good at grieving,
Grieve.
do it. It's hard because I feel like I have been tasked with grieving a lot in my life, and like sometimes it's hard, but it's not just about me and it's not just about my losses and my
True.
experiences. I'm grieving on behalf of others, and it does do something. It shifts energy, it changes things. So when you feel like you can't do anything for people that are far away and you have no control, you can shift energy. You can change energetics around you with your body, with how you participate in your community. And grieving is a huge piece of that puzzle. And that was like a beautiful channeled message to help us remember like what our purpose is in the ecosystem of the earth, you know, as humans, because so many of us feel like we're either parasites and we shouldn't be here, or the earth was made for me, I am the top dog. And it's like,
Right.
no, you're here for
No.
4.5 seconds, like in comparison to all the other stuff that's more conscious than you, potentially, is my belief about it, where I'm like, yeah, these rocks probably know more than I do, because they've had to sit in stillness for 10,000 years, and
Yeah.
I get to be here for like less than 100, and I act so, you know, grandiose about everything.
Ego, man.
And yeah, and the truth is we're part of this big giant network of life, and that's really our role, is to be part of it. And we have like stuff that we can do that like other things can't. Like we can sing and we can dance, we can create, we can make, like we can turn energy into creation. It's like we're little tiny earths, you know, walking around. And so that I thought was, for me, it was a really meaningful message, and I feel like it's relevant to our experience in the collective right now,
Absolutely.
and just grief in general.
I love that you bring that up because I always end up screenshotting things and saving things for, future discussions on the podcast. And the one that I saved today, of course, was this post about how 300 million years ago, when trees died on the planet, they didn't rot. They would just fall and they would sit there forever because we didn't have anything to decompose anything yet. The Earth hadn't created that yet. And so it took 60 million years for bacteria to evolve to be able to decompose wood, which is where all of our coal comes from, and obviously how we can get more trees to grow in place of the ones that have fallen. And when I was reading about that, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like that the earth literally these trees would fall, and then the planet had to be like, what do I do to get rid of these trees? And then bacteria, over a millennia, bacteria started to form and it got rid of the trees. And then I was thinking like, okay, so what were we? What were we put here for then? Because like you said, so many people feel that like we're just a parasite because we don't give anything back. And I think that like we're at a point in our evolution where it does seem that way because there's so much destruction on behalf of mankind that happens.
Yeah.
But I love this idea that like, well, we were put here for a reason. Earth created us for a reason. What could that reason be? And if we are the creatures on this planet that are able to do these things, to move this energy and to feel these intense emotions that then create things. Like you think about the art created by, our most talented musicians, our most talented film directors, our most talented artists. It's when their life was the hardest that they made good art. The Rolling Stones haven't written a good song in 70 years, right? Like it's been
70
so
years
long.
since before they were a
Before
band.
they were a band, they haven't
Yeah.
written a good song.
Yeah, because they're so privileged. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but that's the thing. Like once like musicians end up getting money, like their circumstances change. They aren't struggling. They aren't dealing with the same things that so many of us are. It happens even with like stand-up comedians.
Yeah.
When they start, they're so good because they're relatable and we can relate to them. And then they get huge, they get very famous, they get very rich. Oops, their jokes aren't funny anymore. Why is that? It's the pain that creates
Yeah.
the most beautiful art.
And also like, true joy, which I think is not something that people with lots of money experience. Like I don't
Yeah.
think lots of shit makes you have joy. I think we're a lot closer to joy when we have nothing and we're in the forest and maybe took a little bit of a microdose or something. Like we're a lot more close to bliss and joy in that connection. Like people that have more stuff, they become less connected to the community and the collective, and then they're more empty inside, and it's just a perpetual cycle of empty inside until they do, what these extremely empty inside people are doing, where they're like, how do I make it feel better? And
How do I feel better?
you have to be a human. You have to remember what it is to be a human. And we are part of the earth, like we're made up from the earth. And to be able to be a holy witness to the earth and like not just move pain and grief, but also like moving joy and happiness and celebration, and like with the seasons, like with spring and watching these beautiful like blooms and all the everything's exploding with life, and we can laugh and sing and eat and dance, and that's a reflection of what is happening in the on the planet around us. And so we are also moving all this other energy. It doesn't have to be just pain, but that's a significant one that we all avoid, that our planet needs us to grieve for it. It is fucking not a happy camper right now. And we're going to just keep on seeing that over and over again. And then, we also need to grieve in our own lives so that we have space to have life within our beings, because
Yeah,
it doesn't go anywhere. It's like being perpetually constipated. Eventually, it's going to kill you. And I totally believe that with emotions as well,
absolutely. Amy, you always give me so much to think about.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Thank you so much, as per usual.
Yeah.
Another lovely Mind Body Spirits. I love this segment, and we'll be back. I think we're kind of doing Mind Body Spirits in more of a quarterly fashion, so we'll be back in the fall to bring you, who knows? That's for the universe
To the side.
and for us to accept.
So magical.
But for now, farewell, weirdos.
Catch you on the other side.